It's New Year's Eve, the last day of 2024. And you know what? I think it's safe to say this has been a good year to be a Dodger fan.
You are Locked On MLB Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
New graphics. Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to a Locked On MLB crossover, crossing over Locked On MLB and Locked On Dodgers. This is a podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball, but you know what? You might as well just be talking about the Dodgers because they are the kings of all of Major League Baseball. I am one of your hosts today. My name is Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Just a quick little note here that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Hey, joining us today on the crossover here, ladies and gentlemen, the host of Locked On Dodgers, Jeff Snider. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm good, Sully. How you doing?
Well, you know what? We're wrapping up the year here. In a few hours, we'll be in 2025. But it is becoming a tradition here. Oh, by the way, I tell people where they can follow you before we jump in.
I'm at Snidog over on the artist formerly known as Twitter. And Locked On Dodgers over there too. You know how to find a podcast,
Yeah, at this point you should know, and we're Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called now, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Simon. Sully Baseball. I'm on the Blue Sky. How about that, huh?
I'm on there. I don't do anything there. I can't imagine actually adding another social media to my life. If Twitter does, I'll just say a prayer of thanks and be done with it,
I forget I'm on it. I was reminded yesterday I'm on LinkedIn. I said, really? I have a LinkedIn? I guess I do have a LinkedIn account.
I'm professional at something?
I'm probably still on MySpace. But hey, this is in just a matter of hours, it will be 2025, brand new year. There will be a new champion. Now, the new champion could be a repeat champion, but it won't be the exact same team. That's always, even if you have back-to-back winners, there's always little differences between every team. But it is becoming a tradition here at Locked On MLB that when we do a show on New Year's Eve, I bring in the Locked On host of the champion. I started when they did Locked On Braves, then Locked On Astros, and last year Bryce Patrick was on for Locked On Rangers, and now we bring on Jeff Snider from Locked On Dodgers, or as he should call his show, Locked On World Series Champion Dodgers.
So, yeah, at the parade, Daniel Hudson said that all Dodger fans are World Series champions. So I am a World Series champion. Daniel Hudson said so as his last act before retirement. I mean, that if that's not binding, a dying declaration, I don't know what it is. Hopefully this will be starting a new tradition, Sully, where it's just you and me every year on New Year's Eve, because my goal, I believe that the late 40s, early 50s, the Yankees won 5 in a row.
Right.
So I do think there will come a point where I would get tired of it and think, okay, maybe let somebody else win. But at that point definitely wouldn't be before 6 in a row
right.
Because that once you made that history, then, okay, 6 in a row, okay, maybe let somebody else, Dodgers can lose in 7 games in the World Series or something and then start another, then do 7 in a row, but you and me every New Year's Eve, I'm on board.
By the way, it's funny. I'm remembering, and we're going to talk. I want to talk a little bit about this year, which you and I have talked about. It started with our friendship being strained, and ended with I attended the Dodger clinching of the NLCS against the Mets. That was a lot of fun being at that game. And for those of you who follow the show, on Christmas, go back on the show dropped on Christmas was all shot by me at Dodger Stadium during Game 6 of the NLCS. That was my Christmas gift to our fans, to trip out to the ball game. And I'm sure you probably enjoyed watching me in the stands as the Dodgers clinched the pennant. But you brought up Daniel Hudson. I want to bring this up because in that 5th game, in that wild 5th game, which has to be one of the weirdest, I mean, it was a tremendously dramatic game, but it was also one of the weirdest games because the first half felt like all Yankee, and then the second it was really a Jekyll and Hyde game. That it's hard to believe that the first half of that game was just Mardi Gras in the Bronx.
Yeah, in some ways it was Jekyll and Hyde squared, because the Yankees did their own Jekyll and Hyde, and the Dodgers did their own Jekyll and Hyde. There was like two. It's like, okay, you're Jekyll right now, and I'm Hyde, and then we'll flip flop.
And of course, what people will forget about that game is the Yankees took the lead again, and if they had held on, that fifth inning, that legendary fifth inning, would be a blip. It would be that, okay, it was a blowout, but then they came back, but the Yankees held on to win. It would be a great story for the Yankees, because in the World Series, it's binary. There's no, you win or you lose. There's no moral victories. And if
nobody gives the Buffalo Bills credit from the 90s.
Well, and if New York went back to Los Angeles for Game 6, yes, there would have been travel day, but the Dodgers pitching was absolutely spent. And I still think the Dodgers would have won, but the psychology of they're down 3-0 and then they pushed it back, and basically that Game 6 would have been really tense for the Dodgers to win that, because if it got to a 7, and then they start showing all the clips from 2004, that would have been, then by definition it's a coin flip. This is why I thought of Hudson, because one of the things I get fascinated about in baseball is I'm always fascinated by the person who's on the mound to clinch the World Series. That's always been something that I have a weird sort of fascination with. And if Hudson, when it was clear that Trinan, was going to be one of the real underappreciated stars of that Game 5, that he went in and finished that 8th inning on fumes, and it was clear he could not come out for the 9th, and they had Walker Buehler and Hudson warming up. Obviously, Walker Buehler was the right person to bring in, and he got his first career major league save, and what a way to get it. And then Hudson got his butt kicked earlier in the series, so you're not going to bring him in out in that situation. But if he did, and he got those final 3 outs, he would have been the first pitcher in the history of baseball to clinch a World Series for 2 different franchises. Because he was a pitcher on the mound when Washington beat Houston. And he was part of an elite group then because he was acquired mid-season. So he started the season with another team and finished the World Series. But part of me wanted Hudson to see that. And then to finish his career as a champion would be cool.
That would have been really cool. Hudson has said he thinks his arm would have blown out if he had actually had to come in the game.
Yeah.
It was, we started doing the math in that game. It's like when Flaherty comes out in the second inning, we already knew the Dodgers were shorthanded because they'd used all their long relievers in the blowout game in Game 4. So Game 5, it's like, we're starting to do the math. And when Trinan had to come in the 6th inning, I told my wife then, I said, I think Walker Buehler's going to have to pitch in this game. She's like, didn't he just pitch? I said, yeah, he just pitched, but that's probably their best option. And, Trinan, it had a lot of the feel, obviously not quite the stakes, but Game 5 of the 2016 NLDS Dodgers against the Nationals, when Kenley Jansen had to come in early, and then Clayton Kershaw came in to get the last 2 outs because Jansen ran out of gas. Very similar, but this was just, like you said, heroic effort from Blake Trinan. Deserves so much credit for that. It would have been fun to have Daniel Hudson do it, but hard to get more fun than the way it did end.
Right. And by the way, another unsung hero, one of these things that people won't talk about, but Landon Knack going 4 innings the night before out of the bullpen to basically say, we're not going to bring the parade out there, and then leaving Brent Honeywell out there to get his ass handed to him. But he was like, nope, I'm not bringing in my guys. My guys need a day off. And
people there's a lot of people give Honeywell credit for throwing 52 pitches or whatever in 1 inning. It's like, you know what? You could have just got some outs. Like, we just needed the 1 inning. You didn't have to do 52 pitches, bro. But, he is Brent Honeywell, so it's not like he just has those outs just readily available.
Yeah, and Ben Kaspiris has a World Series ring, and good for him.
And he's a friend of the Locked On Dodgers. He was on our show a couple weeks ago.
That's why I brought him up. He
said that he thought he was going to have to go in that game the day after throwing 43 pitches. He was ready to go. When Trinan came in the 6th inning, he's like, I might have to pitch this game. So he was relieved when he saw Buehler walk down to the bullpen. He's like, oh, we got a better option than me.
I have up here the box score of Game 5, and Flaherty. This was a day after a bullpen game, and Flaherty goes an inning in the 3rd, and then Banda goes 2/3, and then Brazier, Kopech. I think Brazier probably, Brazier let up the home run.
Brazier gave the homer to Stanton.
I remember watching the game thinking I would have tried to stretch Kopech out another inning. But do you know what? Who am I? I mean, they were dancing on the lawn at the end. So you really can't criticize much when the end result is winning the World Series in 5 games in one of the most dramatic comeback games in the history of the World Series. So it's tough to nitpick.
For sure. I do think this solidified in Andrew Friedman and Dave Roberts' minds the goal of never doing a bullpen game in the postseason again. Because even though it turned out great against the Padres, turned out okay against the Mets, but you get into that situation where you do need a heroic effort from Blake Trinan and Walker Buehler. You can't count on that every year. And so people always say there's no such thing as too much pitching. I think the Dodgers are going to eat, sleep, drink, and breathe that motto all offseason.
And with that, when we come back, we're going to talk about the fact that some of the Dodgers narrative of 2024 is already being rewritten by some fans, and the Dodger ownership is intelligently not listening to that change of narrative. Hey, did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That happened to me. And I had a few subscriptions for some streaming video services. That's all I'll say. And I didn't even realize I was paying for them. Rocket Money made it so easy to track them down. It's like having a personal assistant for our finances. And sometimes you'll get a message like, hey, there was a big purchase you made. And I say, yeah, I did it. I made that purchase. But Rocket Money is essentially saying, we're just making sure. And do you know what? I'd rather have that than pick up my bank statement and go like, where the heck did all my money go? It went to all those services. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this summer. Rocket Money has 5 million users and has saved over a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the minimum features. You know, I looked up, I saw, hey, there's a couple services there I don't use anymore. Rocket Money, boom, gets it all done. I use it to cancel services I don't use anymore. I've saved a ton. With our goals features, I've been able to automatically set aside money for the future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Check out Rocket Money. Continuing our crossover with Locked On Dodgers. When the Dodgers signed Blake Snell a couple of weeks ago after his cameo with the Giants, there were a lot of people saying, oh, it's the rich getting richer, and the Dodgers, it's excess for the Dodgers, and look, they won the World Series, and now they're just grabbing more players. And I remember thinking, hold on a second. Hold on. They went into the World Series. Gavin Stone wasn't available. Tyler Glasnow wasn't available. Kershaw wasn't available. And Ohtani couldn't pitch. There's someone else I'm thinking. Bobby Miller couldn't pitch.
River Ryan.
And Yamamoto was on a leash. You know, I mean, who was the great innings eating, star on that team? And they had and the idea that, and they had gotten rid of James Paxton midway through the season. The fact that someone like Kasparius, that's how you pronounce his name, right? Kasparius? Kasparius. I'm sorry. Kasparius had 3 more games in the major leagues than me. And wound up starting a World Series game, that Michael Kopech, that you had to write in bullpen game. Not, oh my God, this was a huge fluke, and we had an 18-inning game, kind of like when the Red Sox had to in 04 had to use Wakefield out of the bullpen, and like, what are we going to do the next game? Well, that wasn't what happened. No, it was written in bullpen opener, and if a big help to the Dodgers was the fact that Aaron Boone mismanaged Game 1, where they were 1 out away from being down 0-1 in the series, and the Yankees decided to play more like the Bad News Bears and Morris Buttermaker in the dugout in Game 5. If they played competent defense in Game 5, or if someone just covered first, it's 5-0 going into the bottom of the 5th inning, and they're winning that game. The Yankees are winning that game, and if those two things happen, if Boone brought in the correct reliever and Cole covered first, Yankees are up 3-2. And okay, if one of those things happens, it's 3-2 anyway. But the fact of the matter is, they needed bullpen depth. And you mentioned before, they're going to learn that this was a lottery ticket they had, not a blueprint. They snuck under the wire, not, oh, this is how you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is not the 2015 Royals and their bullpen. This was, Dodgers had a good bullpen, but you'd like that bullpen to pitch 3 or 4 innings a game, not 9. And, early November, we did an episode of Locked On Dodgers, and we made the case that the Dodgers should sign Blake Snell and Roki Sasaki. Mm-hmm. They've done one. I think they're going to do the other. And the headline was something like, could Blake Snell and Roki Sasaki revolutionize the Dodgers rotation? And somebody commented and said, what do you need to revolutionize? They just won the World Series. And I responded, I said, do you think it was the starting pitching that did that for them? This was, the fact is, I do think it can get a little bit too overblown that the Dodgers got lucky, because the fact is, you almost lost that game. Well, the opposite of almost losing is barely winning, which is always better. If instead the Yankees almost lost that game, which, if they had won, we'd be saying, well, you almost lost that game. So you'd always rather have the home run that barely gets over the wall than the one that gets robbed, even though people talk about, oh, that one was just a wall scraper, but you know what? Home runs count, wins count.
Yeah.
But the fact is, the Dodgers won this World Series for a lot of reasons, and starting pitching, at least starting pitching depth, was not one of them. They did get very good performances from several starting pitchers at different times in the postseason. But when you're running out of bullpen game every 4th game in the postseason, it's not a recipe for replication.
And let me just say this right up front. By my saying, if that thing happened, is not in any way, shape me taking away what they did. That they did what a championship team's supposed to do. Which
every World Series champion has those things you look at. Even in the sweep,
every World Series champion I've ever seen has won a game that you thought, oh man, I didn't have a chance to do that. I can't think of one where they just, with a possible exception of the '89 A's, but even they had the help of an earthquake midway through it.
Because Dave Stewart got to come back and start a game that he wasn't going to be able to, right? Because of the earthquake.
And what I've been told by several writers for the A's, before the earthquake, Bob Welch was supposed to start Game 3, and he was having tightness, and Kurt Young was warming up in the bullpen in case if Welch came out and had nothing, they were going to put in Kurt Young.
Hey, he'll neutralize Will Clark, lefty-lefty matchup.
Oh, yeah. And then Kevin Mitchell and Matt Williams and Candy Baldonado, all that would be launching off of him. Robbie Thompson. I remember that '89 team. But yes, that's not me taking. That's what a championship team do.
Yeah.
And also, when they fail to cover first, and a championship team sees, oh, you're going to give us that opportunity, we're going to take advantage of that.
I tell people all the time, after the second error, the last error of that inning, it was still 5-0 with 2 outs.
Right.
After the last misplay, Cole not covering first, or Rizzo not thinking maybe I should pretend to be an athlete.
One of them had to be there. One of them had to be there.
Even then, He was 5-1 with
Mhm.
2 outs and Garrett Cole on the mound.
Yeah.
Freddie Freeman and Teoscar Hernandez came through, drove in 2 runs each. So yeah, like it's kind of funny. Like even some Dodger fans I've seen, like I saw this morning on Instagram, a bumper sticker on a car, and it's just a picture of the score bug, 5-0 Yankees, bases loaded, 2 outs. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you at least need a second picture that says 5-5 with still 2 outs in the top of the 5th, because 5-0 just shows me the Dodgers losing. Show me 7-6 end of the 9th, like show me the Dodgers, because like you said, you have to come through still,
Right.
even with the teams giving you opportunities. Okay, can you capitalize? And the Dodgers capitalized.
And also, like people poke fun, and I poke fun at Boone bringing in Cortez instead of Hill, but Cortez also got Ohtani out on 1 pitch.
Yep.
And when they walked Betts, it was the assumption that Freeman was injured. I remember talking to my friend Chris, who's a diehard rabid Dodger fan, and I remember because Freeman was not starting at first base when I was at the clinching game. Muncy was starting at first, and I remember saying to him, maybe talk about something that a ice cold take. Maybe the Dodgers should have put Freddie Freeman on the roster. If he can't play, then why are you going to waste a roster spot with him?
It wasn't just you. There were Dodger fans saying that Freddie's hurting the team. He's being selfish, and not smart Dodger fans saying that, but there were Dodger fans saying that.
No, but I wondered it. I wondered it. If the guy can't play, why have the roster?
Yeah, absolutely. But it's kind of funny I've watched all those game recaps so many times. It's how people ask me what I do during the off season. I watch Dodger game recaps and wait for spring,
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny. Game 5 of the NLDS, last play, ground ball to Kike Hernandez at third, throws it 2, Max Muncy at first base. Right. Last game of the NLCS, ground ball to Chris Taylor at second, throws it 2, Max Muncy at first base. And then who's the World Series MVP? First baseman Freddie Freeman. Yeah, it was not crazy at all to think Freddie is too hurt. You would much rather have, knowing you're going to bring in a lefty to face Ohtani, whether it's Tim Hill or Nestor Cortez, you were always, as long as Ohtani didn't hit into a double play, you were always going to walk Mookie Betts to get to Freddie Freeman. Right. And, you can never, second guessing a manager is always a losing game because there is no way to see the alternate reality. The only thing to do is pretend that Tim Hill is a world beater. Tim Hill's not a world beater, Nestor Cortez might be a better pitcher than Tim Hill. I don't know if Tim Hill would have better success against Freddie Freeman. Who knows? We can never know. But the fact is, their game plan was bust Freddie inside because Freddie, before that game, it had been 29 days since his last extra base hit. Even in this game, the extra base hit, the triple he hit, was a little flare down the third baseline.
It was aided by the dimensions.
Yeah, and then by Alex Verdugo choosing to wear roller skates in the outfield. Right. Freddie Freeman had not hit a ball hard in weeks before that game. And it wasn't crazy to think, what, if we can get Ohtani out, we probably win this game because then we walk Mookie and then Freddie, who's hurt and slumping, we can get him out. Yeah. What they didn't know was that Freddie had a breakthrough because of the other injury. The injury they didn't even know about actually led to it because he had to change his swing. So busting him inside was absolutely the wrong move because it was the one pitch he could hit hard. Right. And instead, so when you don't know that your entire scouting report on a guy is no longer correct, you can execute perfect. It was a pretty well executed pitch by Cortez. Yeah. It just happened to be where the October 25th, 2024 version of Freddie Freeman, that's where his power was. I hear that phrase. I always think back to Tim McCarver talking about that's where David Eckstein's power is. I'm like, either you don't know what power means or what David Eckstein means, dude. But Freddie Freeman does have power, and he had it in that spot, and they just didn't know it.
When we come back, I want to talk about how quickly things can turn and what we can look for next year. I keep thinking about that moment after Game 3 at Petco, and the Padres and the Dodgers exchanged big rallies. There was the 6-run rally for San Diego, and then there was the grand slam by Teoscar, but the Padres held on and won, 6-5. We're up 2-1, and the Dodgers were throwing a bullpen game. At that moment, it looked also like the Padres could score at will. They were like, at that point they were able to hit. Now, I know what I could see the Jeff Snider engine starting to rev up there. If you had told me at that moment the Dodgers were going on to win the World Series, I would have thought you would have been absolutely bananas. Because to me, at that point, it looked like, here we go, when they lost to San Diego, when the Goose landed on the field in 2022, or when Kershaw got his butt handed to him by Arizona the year before. But in retrospect, this is why these narratives are written in retrospect. The home run by Fernando Tatis Jr. in that 6-run rally was the last runs the Padres scored in the entire series.
And the Padres still haven't scored since then. As we sit, the clock about to tick to 2025, the Padres still haven't scored since Fernando Tatis' home run. Our graphic for our episode after that night, it was a picture of Miguel Rojas not flipping the ball to the second baseman like you should have, trying to take it himself.
Yep.
With the caption, LA's hope is fading. And it was a somber episode. It was, and we talked about, it's not over. It's only been 4 years since we watched Dodgers come back from down 3-1 against the Braves in the NLCS. And absolutely that could happen. And we felt like it could happen. I can't honestly say I felt like it would happen. And I am I am a big believer in there's no point in being pessimistic, no point in giving up hope. There will be all off season to be sad if it comes to that. Why start early? And I preached that. I said that on our show. I said it on Twitter, like, keep your spirits up because there's all off season to be sad when the time comes, if the time comes. And I always made sure to say if, I very much believed it could happen. I did not believe for sure that it would happen. But that game 4 was pivotal because that was the bullpen game. And that was the big question was, can the Dodgers actually win a bullpen game? And I definitely didn't predict that the Padres would go 24 straight innings without scoring a run to end the series. I did think that the Padres were not a great offensive team. I think they were less than the sum of their parts. They had a lot of big names, but not necessarily a good offense, and I think we saw that come through. But it's hard to say that winning a bullpen game 8-0, shutting out a team like the Padres in a bullpen game, it's hard to call that anything other than a fluke. I think if the Dodgers throw that same bullpen game against that same Padres team 100 times, I'd say at least 90 times the Padres at least score, and, the fact is the Dodgers scored 8 runs. So ultimately they didn't need a shutout from the bullpen game. And maybe the offense was going to win that game for him anyway. That's what we said on that, after that Game 3 episode. We said the offense is going to need to win this game. And the offense did win the game. It just so happened that 1 run would have won the game. We just didn't know that.
And here's the amazing thing, I think, about going into 2025. And that is, we've talked now for about 25 minutes or whatever, and we've barely brought up Shohei Ohtani, the guy who went 50-50, cleaned up on the MVP in his rehab season. And going into 2025, when you think about goals that the Dodgers could have, like what are hills they can still climb? One for me is that Clayton Kershaw is so tantalizingly close to a career strikeout mark that would put him in the elites, the top 20, something that only 20 other pitchers in the history of baseball have ever achieved, the total of 3,000 strikeouts. And he is 32 strikeouts away from being one of 20 to get 3,000 strikeouts. And I think that's Kershaw's last mountain to climb. He has nothing else to prove as a pitcher and whatnot.
Yeah.
But to have Ohtani back on the mound and be at least a good number 3 starter. I mean, I don't expect to be a Cy Young winner, but at least be a good number 3 starter, and to have a great postseason and have a game where he hits a home run and wins the game in the postseason, something crazy like that. That's the one last thing that this Dodger team needs to do. It's nice we're not talking about Ape either. But I'll say one other quick thing, and I'll just hand the ball back to you to finish up 2024. I also think this takes a lot of pressure off of Dave Roberts, that he won that World Series by playing without a starting rotation and was able to make the right moves, keep the team in it, and be smart enough to punt in Game 4. Some people were giving him crap for punting in Game 4. He's like, I have to punt. And the World Series was still 1-5. And so I think a lot of people who gave him crap throughout the year, I think they need to shut up right now.
Yeah, and most of them have. I don't think there was as much pressure on Dave Roberts as a lot of fans like to think. They weren't going to fire Dave Roberts even if they had lost in the NLDS again. But it's really, really nice that instead of losing in the NLDS again, instead he, further cemented his spot as a Hall of Fame manager. Winning the next 5 will even more further cement that. But I'm glad you brought up Ohtani, because it really wouldn't be a 2024 recap episode without mentioning, one of the most historic seasons we've ever seen. And even in the postseason, just talking about that, the fact that we were able to talk about this postseason so much without bringing up Ohtani says more about the Dodgers than about Ohtani, because the fact is, in Game 1 against the Padres, Ohtani had the huge hit, the 3-run homer after, when Machado hit that home run in the first inning, the Padres are up 3-0. And there was very much among fans a feeling of, oh crap, here we go again, And I don't know if the players felt that or not. Shohei Ohtani wasn't on the team that lost in the LDS the last 2 years. Teoscar Hernandez wasn't on that team. Yamamoto wasn't on that team. Plenty of guys weren't on that team. Walker Buehler was hurt, So I don't know if the players felt it. The fans felt it. And so that home run that Ohtani hit off that 97-mile-an-hour high fastball from Dylan Cease to tie the game, it was, for the fans, it was, oh yeah, we can score runs too, And so that was a huge hit. Then in the NLCS, Ohtani and Max Muncy both broke the Dodgers franchise record for most times getting on base in one series in the postseason. And that was only in a 6-game series, So he had a huge NLCS. And then even in the World Series, where he gets hurt in Game 2, and so he didn't contribute much after that. But in Game 1, Ohtani is the one who scored the tying run, who set it up to get to extra innings for Freddie's grand slam.
Yes.
Almost scored it on his own by hitting a home run. Instead, it's a double, goes to third on the air, scores on a sac fly. And so he was able to contribute in all those ways. And I think it was kind of fitting, because Ohtani has said, when he settled in with the Dodgers, when he realized I've got all these teammates, I don't have to do everything myself. And that was the theme of the Dodgers winning the World Series. Shohei Ohtani did a lot, but he didn't have to do everything, because Freddie Freeman did a lot, and Tommy freaking Edman did a lot. And, Yoshinobu Yamamoto and the bullpen, and so many guys did a lot. Mookie Betts, so many guys did so much that Ohtani was able to be just, hey, I'm just one of the guys doing my part, pitching in where I can. And if you've got 18 really good players pitching in where they can, and the other 8 not getting in the way too much, you can win a World Series.
And Mike Trout is sitting there going like, tell me how that's done.
He should get traded to the Dodgers.
Hey, Jeff Snider, same time next year?
I can't guarantee exact same time. Behind the curtain, we are Locked On Dodgers everydayers will know that we're recording this ahead of time, because it's like a time capsule back to when Jeff's voice was messed up when he was recovering from bronchitis. Hopefully by actual New Year's Eve, I will sound like myself again. And so this will be a flashback for our everydayers. So I can't guarantee December 20th at 9:39 p.m. again next year, but absolutely sometime for the New Year's Eve episode, we will talk about the 2025 World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers.
And where can people follow you in this as they try to repeat?
Over on Twitter, I'm at Snydog. Our podcast is at Locked On Dodgers. You can find it where you get podcasts. You can find it on YouTube. You know how to listen to a podcast. You're doing it right now. Ours is just Locked On Dodgers. It's pretty pretty standard formula we've come up with over here at the network. I'm pretty impressed with whoever came up with that idea.
And follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called now. And I'm at Blue Sky now, I guess. I'll be posting often. And also, I am on Twitter, on Instagram a lot at Sully Baseball Podcast. Okay, time this to about 10 seconds before the ball drops. Okay, ready? 10, 9.
It's hard
8,
with our lag. You count. I'll just
7,
pretend.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year!
Happy New Year! Let's kiss, Sully.
This has been a Locked On MLB, Locked On Dodgers crossover. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.